Imagine waking up one morning with the unsettling sense that everything you thought you understood about yourself and your place in the world wasn't quite real. Not because of some hidden plot in the shadows, but because the architecture of your life was built out in the open, normalized over centuries, embedded in culture, reinforced in habits, and passed off as truth.
It's not a grand deception delivered in political speeches or news headlines. No, it's far more elegant than that, more invisible and far more dangerous. It's a lie so thoroughly woven into your daily reality that you no longer recognize it as false. You live by it, you defend it, you base your identity around it. And in doing so, you give away your freedom, your purpose, and your peace, piece by piece. In this exploration, we'll start dismantling that illusion. We'll uncover how society doesn't just guide your actions. It shapes your thoughts, molds your desires, and engineers your perception of self. From ancient philosophy to modern psychology, this journey will peel back the layers until the most powerful truth is revealed. But to truly see it, you'll need to walk through every step, because what's waiting at the end is what you were never supposed to discover. Let's begin. You're born into a world already running at full speed. Before you even understand words, you're surrounded by rules, rituals, and roles. You're taught what's good and what's bad, what earns approval and what invites shame. Your mind, still soft, curious, and wide open, absorbs it all without resistance. By the time you enter school, the machine is already in motion. You're taught to sit still, obey commands, follow patterns. You're praised when you align, corrected when you drift. From report cards to reward charts, the system trains you, quietly but consistently, to depend on external approval. You learn that the highest praise comes not from originality, but from obedience. Behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner showed how consistent rewards could shape not just behavior, but personality. Society took this principle and ran with it. Today, that model is everywhere, in classrooms, in corporate offices, even in the social media apps you scroll. The likes you chase, the opinions you mimic, the outrage you perform, it all feeds a loop of external validation. But stop for a moment and ask, who decided what's worth being validated? Here's where the illusion begins to take shape. You've been led to believe that your worth is measured by how well you serve the machine, that success is productivity, that identity is your job title, your image, your bank balance. The message is consistent, from billboards to school books. Conform, and you'll be rewarded. But what happens when you don't fit? What happens when your inner voice starts whispering truths that challenge the narrative? Most silence it. They're afraid of being cast out, laughed at, or worse, ignored. Philosopher Michel Foucault spoke of a society that controls not by force, but by defining what's normal. Once that definition is accepted, anyone outside it is considered broken, dangerous, or wrong. No need for chains, just give people a standard and let them police themselves. Ever feel like you're living a version of someone else's story? That the goals you chase aren't really yours? That the dreams you buried long ago still tap from beneath the surface? That discomfort, it's not a flaw. It's your real self, still alive beneath the roles you've been taught to play. Here's where the illusion becomes even more insidious. Society teaches you that if you're unhappy, you're to blame. You're not trying hard enough, not thinking positive enough, not hustling or manifesting the right way. The system keeps its hands clean while you shoulder the guilt. But ask yourself, who profits from your self-doubt? When you feel inadequate, companies sell you solutions. When you're compliant, power structures remain unchallenged. When you believe you're free while staying within the lines they've drawn, you become the ideal citizen. Quiet, consuming, predictable. Sociologist Eric Fromm warned us that modern freedom is often just a prettier form of submission. In his work Escape from Freedom, he revealed how people willingly surrender true liberty in exchange for comfort, belonging, and routine. They don't need to be forced, they've been trained to see control as safety. Ever heard a voice inside whispering, "This isn't who I am"? Ever ignored it because you were afraid of what others might think? You're not broken. You're not alone. Millions of people are silently clapping to a rhythm they never chose, smiling in cages dressed up as dreams. But here's the clever trick. The lie doesn't feel like a lie. It feels like tradition, like culture, like security. That's what gives it power. That's what makes it so hard to spot, and even harder to escape. And yet, escape is possible. In the next part of this journey, we'll dig into how this quiet system of control was born, from religious dogma to media narratives, from ancient kingdoms to modern algorithms. We'll look at how belief systems are manufactured and how even your sense of right and wrong can be manipulated. If something inside you stirred as you listened to this, stay with me. What's coming next will challenge everything you've been conditioned to accept. Because the first step to freedom is seeing the cage. You weren't born into liberty. You were born into a script, a system, a pre-written identity. To truly understand how society shapes your mind, we have to trace it, not through paranoid theories, but through the sober lenses of history, psychology, and influence. Centuries ago, control was brutal and direct. Kings ruled by divine right. Religions declared authority over your soul. Empires expanded by sword and decree. Step out of line, and the punishment was swift and merciless. But as the world modernized, so did its methods. The battlefield shifted from body to mind. Plato warned us long ago with his allegory of the cave. People often mistake shadows for reality. They live facing a wall, watching flickers of truth distorted by those behind them. When one breaks free and sees the real world, he is shunned, labeled dangerous by those still staring at illusions. Today, our cave is more advanced, more persuasive. The chains are softer, but the control more complete. It no longer relies on brute force. It uses stories. We build our world through narrative, myths, media, memes. From fairy tales to national slogans, from blockbuster scripts to influencer captions, stories shape how we see ourselves. The more they're repeated, the more they feel like truth. Take the myth of meritocracy, the idea that hard work alone guarantees success. It sounds noble, but hides a cruel subtext. If you fail, it must be your fault. It glosses over inequality, excuses injustice, and keeps the powerless blaming themselves. Political theorist Noam Chomsky revealed how media manufactures public consent. Not by lying, but by controlling what we question. It's not what's said, but what's left unsaid that limits our thoughts. Then came the screen, television, then the internet, then the phone in your palm. Never before have so many minds been exposed to the same curated reality. Mass media didn't just reflect culture, it began to dictate it. Ask yourself, how much of your beliefs about love, success, identity, even happiness, came from strangers you've never met? Celebrities in mansions, influencers in tropical photo shoots, stories told over and over again until you internalize them as your own. Even individuality has been packaged and sold. You're told to be yourself, as long as it fits within the trend. Express yourself, just don't disrupt the system. Be real, but not too inconvenient. Carl Jung described the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of archetypes and instincts. Marketers have learned to exploit this too. They've taken deep human needs, belonging, purpose, transcendence, and turned them into logos and taglines. Rebellion becomes merch. Spirituality becomes a marketing plan. In the end, we're left in a world where the illusion of choice masks a deeper conformity. When you vote, are you choosing your future or selecting between two corporate-sponsored illusions of it? When you scroll, are you discovering your interests or are you being guided by an algorithm that knows your impulses better than you do? These aren't just questions. They're keys. Keys to reclaiming your thoughts, your time, yourself. And here's one of the most powerful tools they've used: language. George Orwell warned us of this in 1984. He described a future where language itself was stripped down to prevent dissent. If you don't have words for rebellion, you can't even conceive of it. Today, we see sanitized language everywhere. Collateral damage instead of innocent deaths. Downsizing instead of mass layoffs. Influencer instead of corporate mouthpiece. And when you push back, you're labeled crazy, extreme, threatening. But here's the truth they fear the most. Once your mind awakens, you cannot be put back to sleep. And that's why the final and most dangerous form of control is self-imposed. After years of subtle conditioning, you begin to censor yourself. You dismiss your inner voice. You ignore your intuition. You doubt your own soul, not because someone told you to, but because the system trained you to silence yourself. In that space between what you believe and what you fear, it thrives. So I ask you again, whose dream are you living? Whose approval are you chasing? Whose expectations are you dying to meet? The journey to liberation doesn't start by overthrowing society. It starts by questioning the stories that shaped your soul. And that's exactly where we'll go next. We'll explore how your sense of identity has been sculpted, not by your essence, but by expectation. You'll learn how to spot the silent signs of inner submission, and more importantly, how to break them. If something inside you stirred, don't dismiss it. That's not confusion. That's not madness. That's the memory of who you were, before the world told you who to be. Stay with me, because what comes next isn't just powerful. It's the beginning of your liberation. The most dangerous kind of prison isn't made of walls or bars. It's the one built silently inside your own mind. A quiet confinement, invisible yet deeply influential. It shapes your choices, your relationships, and even the way you measure your worth. And the truth is, most people are trapped in this inner cage without even realizing it. We've all been conditioned. From the moment we take our first breath, the world around us begins to program not just how we act, but how we think, what we desire, and who we believe we're allowed to become. Society doesn't just teach behavior, it shapes identity. It plants rules in your subconscious. What to want, who to admire, what to avoid, and most dangerously, what not to question. Psychologists call it self-censorship. It's the process of internalizing external norms so deeply that you begin to police your own mind. No authority figure needs to silence you, you do it to yourself. You learn to suppress your curiosity, your untamed creativity, your natural defiance, all in the name of being acceptable, of belonging, of appearing normal. But pause for a second, what does normal even mean? It's not truth. It's not some objective standard. Normal is a story, a manufactured ideal, shaped by those who benefit from order and predictability. It's a social construct designed to reward conformity and discourage deviation. From a young age, you're taught that normal is safe, that blending in is protection, that acceptance only comes to those who follow the script. And so, you trim your edges, you silence your instincts, you mold yourself into someone others will tolerate, even if it costs you your authenticity. But here's the painful catch. The more you conform, the more you drift from who you really are. The more you wear the mask, the harder it becomes to remember what your real face even looks like. And yet, buried deep beneath the noise and expectations, there's a voice inside you that never stopped whispering. A quiet, persistent reminder that something's off, that the life you're living doesn't match the truth within you. But like the prisoners in Plato's cave, we've grown so used to the shadows, so used to the artificial light, that real truth feels foreign, uncomfortable, even threatening. That's the power of internalized control. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't chain you, it convinces you to chain yourself. It doesn't kill your potential, it convinces you it was never there. How many times have you silenced a dream before it even began? How often have you told yourself, that's just not realistic, or that's not how the world works? These aren't your thoughts, they're scripts. Scripts you've memorized so well that you've mistaken them for truth. But what if I told you that freedom starts with one thing? Reclaiming your mind. This is the first real step out of the illusion. To take back your thoughts. To question the rules you've accepted without resistance. To investigate every belief you hold and ask, is this really mine? Or was it given to me? Because here's the liberating truth. The mind is flexible. The self is not set in stone. You are not a finished product, you're a work in progress with the power to change. But change doesn't happen by accident. It requires effort. It requires discomfort. And it requires courage, the courage to face the uncomfortable reality that much of what you believe was never really yours. Let's take a simple but powerful example. Imagine you've been taught your whole life that success means wealth, that having more money equals more worth. You grind, you sacrifice, you chase a version of success that society applauds. And maybe you get there, the job, the car, the title, but something's still missing. You feel empty. Why? Because you never stop to ask, is this my definition of success? Reclaiming your mind means stopping, breathing, and asking yourself honestly, what do I really want? Not what I've been told to want, not what's expected, but what makes me feel alive. This question isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's a call to self-awareness, to peel back the beliefs you've absorbed from media, from family, from institutions, and decide which ones empower you and which ones enslave you. Society wants you to believe you must earn happiness, that fulfillment is a reward for compliance. But what if it isn't? What if joy, freedom, and meaning are not prizes? They're your birthright. Existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Existence precedes essence," meaning, you are not born with a fixed identity. You become who you are through your choices. Not what the world assigns you, not what your resume says, but what you choose to be. And to make real choices, you have to start by questioning the entire framework you've inherited. In the next phase of this journey, we're going deeper. We'll break down how society keeps the system alive, not just through rules and roles, but by manipulating your desires, your fears, and even your sense of identity. These are the silent forces that keep you chasing and never arriving. Let's begin with desire. From the moment you open your eyes, you're taught what to want. Not just things, but feelings, approval, status, perfection, the latest product, the ideal lifestyle. But are these your desires, or are they manufactured? When your sense of want is shaped by advertisements, influencers, and social pressure, you're not actually choosing. You're reacting. You're being fed a dream and told it's yours. Desire is one of the most effective forms of control because it keeps you running, always reaching, always feeling like you're missing something. And as long as you're looking outside of yourself for fulfillment, you'll never truly feel whole. Next comes fear, the guardian of the status quo. Fear is what keeps you quiet. It's what stops you from taking risks, from telling your truth, from living differently. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being different, fear of the unknown. It's not natural, it's trained, instilled in you to make sure you stay in line. And it works because the moment you start to break the rules, that fear rises. But here's the truth. Fear is not who you are. It's what you've been taught to obey. And finally, there's identity, perhaps the most subtle prison of all. Who are you really? Are you your job? Your status? The roles you've been assigned, student, worker, parent, citizen? Or are you something deeper? Something not defined by labels or achievements? Society trains you to tie your value to roles and performance. But true identity doesn't come from the outside. It arises from within. It's not static. It's fluid. It evolves as you grow. The real illusion is believing you must stay who you've been told to be. But freedom means letting go of that lie. You are not your past. You are not your paycheck. You are not your possessions. You are the awareness behind them all. So how do you begin to escape? There are 3 keys. 1. Awareness. Recognize that what you've been living is not natural, it's learned. The thoughts that limit you, the fears that freeze you, the desires that drive you were programmed. And what has been learned can be unlearned. 2. Reclamation. Take back your power. Question the narratives. Dismantle the scripts. Ask yourself, what do I believe? What do I value? What do I truly want? 3. Action. Once you see clearly, the next step is to act. Not in rebellion, but in alignment. Live your truth. Choose your path. Not because it's safe, but because it's real. This journey isn't about rejecting the world. It's about refusing to let it define you. It's about creating a life that resonates with your values, your voice, and your vision. The world has tried to convince you that you are a product, a label, a function, but you are not here to fit a mold. You are here to create your own. You have the power to break the illusion. You have the right to choose. You have the ability to begin again. And it all starts with one realization. The greatest lie you've ever believed is that you are limited. You're not. You've never been. And the moment you truly understand that, you're free. Thank you for walking this far. The road ahead is yours now. And it begins with one brave step. Look beyond the illusion. and start living the life that was always waiting for you.